All right, Kyle. So, first of all, great to have you. And there's so
Thanks for
much.
having me.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much stuff I want to talk to you about, and lots of leadership questions that are on people's mind. I love talking to successful leaders, and especially leaders with your mindset. I know you really come from a place of servant leadership, and I can almost imagine the culture of the organization that you lead at Walton Insurance Group. Talk to me, talk to the audience about that. What is servant leadership in your mind? What does that look like?
Yeah, I got the majority of my leadership training, if you will, by following and watching Roger Penske, a gentleman I worked for many years. I'm sure people know that name that are listening to this podcast. He's an amazing individual. But Roger was always, hey, what can I do for you? How can I help you? And the way Roger led and the way I lead today is, we're going to give you all the tools, all the things you need to be successful. All you need to do is just apply yourself in our model and within our culture. And we're there to help you. We're there to help you get better. We're there to train you. We surround you with qualified people that know what they're doing. And getting into the insurance business like we do, you don't even have to know much about insurance. As long as you're a person who is a self-starter and eager and hungry. And those are the types of individuals that we're looking for, to grow with in our organization, because we're going to give you everything you need to be successful. And that's a big part of the servant leadership in my mind.
Yeah, I think that's lost on a lot of leaders. Unfortunately, it seems to be so much about driving results and just coming down with a certain agenda and mission, and really this myopic focus. What are the big challenges that you face right now? I mean, you lead a big team. You've got a large organization that's growing. You as a leader right now, what's the biggest thing that kind of sticks in your mind that might be the biggest challenge that you face?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing right now is just the change in the workforce. The younger, I'm 56 years old. We are the founder or the co-founder of Walton Insurance Group, Rick Walton. He's a 70-year-old individual. And then we have 35-year-old people on our leadership team. So, those are obviously three distinct different perspectives in many ways. But on the other hand, it's a great balance, because we get this kind of old school management, we got this new school management, and then I'm in the middle thinking, well, yeah, that is we should do it that way, the way of the millennial way. But I also, on the other hand, had that same kind of influence in my life when it comes to leadership, of that, you kind of do it the old school way. So I think the big challenge today is how do you manage that workforce and with a positive influence on them to motivate them, but motivating them, delivering that message in a different way. The old way of, let's say let's just say a sales guy who was in his meeting, his goals, you need to start meeting your goals. And if you don't do it right now, you're going to be whatever. That doesn't work today. Mm-hmm. That clearly doesn't work today. Mm-hmm. And you have to take other measures. The messages don't change. I shouldn't say the messages, the foundations of hard work, do what's right for the customer, all those types of things. None of those things change, but how you deliver that message to the employee to, have them absorb those types of qualities in them as an individual and carry them out in what they do on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. To have your customers attached to you and have people that you work around attached to you. Mm-hmm. That's the trick today. And so much of that is really just knowing your people. Mm-hmm. and understanding, how and who you communicate with. Mm-hmm. When you're trying to deliver that, that type of strategy.
So how do you deal with someone who is underperforming? What does that look like? Because that's a challenge that leaders face.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of sitting down with them and say, hey, what's going on? Are you having some struggles in your life? We don't always know what's going on outside of work with an individual. So I always like to start there. And if there's some issues there, then we deal with those. If there's no, everything's great, then okay, then what's going on at work? What's happening here that is holding you back? And that's the way I approach it. So what's holding you back versus, hey, you're not performing. I come at it from the standpoint of what's holding you back. What can we be doing better so you can be more successful? Mm-hmm. And then that's where I like to start that conversation.
Yeah.
And then we can look at a number of ways of taking some corrective measure after that, whether it be a performance plan or a follow-up plan, or, hey, I'm going to check in with you every month. Let's have a coffee, talk about it, see what you're doing, those types of things. Again, that servant leadership style of what can we do to make you more successful? Not me saying to them, you're not making us successful.
Yeah.
It's about them.
I love that. And it's seeking to understand. And you're almost assuming that it's something external, that you're not assuming that it's that they're choosing to not work hard or choosing to perform at a poor level. You're assuming that there's some kind of obstacle and you're looking for a way to remove that and help them. How do you, because there's a fine line almost between being empathetic and seeking to understand and allowing excuses to come in and those excuses to really validate their lack of performance. How do you find the balance between that?
Yeah. Well, that goes back to my consistency message. So, we got certain metrics of performance, certain, key performance indicators or whatever you want to call them, and being consistent with that message. And I think if you stay consistent on that, whatever it is you've developed together to help them get better, then you have to be, as a leader, aware of if the individual is trying to kind of get off that path. You sit down, you agree to get on a path to get better together, not separately. Get better together. And if you're consistent in that message and they're not being consistent in that message, that's where you have to, hey, why are we going away here? Or like what's happening? And if that continues to kind of get off the path, then maybe it's just not the right industry for them. Maybe it's not the right position for them. Maybe they're in the wrong seat. There's even another level below of, okay, you're not performing at this, but maybe you'd be really great at this in our organization, because we have so many different ways and positions in the organization where a person can be successful. So sometimes I've found that when you start a process like that, ultimately you come to realize that, they're not a real salesperson or a producer. Mm-hmm. They're more a hunter person, or there may be more a farmer, type of person where you give them stuff to work on, and then they perform and do all the daily stuff really, really well, but they're not good at, self-management or self-directing or self-starting and those types of things. So again, that goes back to the consistency of the message. If I remain consistent and our management team remains consistent, then those in a conversation like that or a plan like that, if they're getting off the tracks, then you say, hey, that's not what we agreed to. What's going on? Mm-hmm. So you just kind of always come back to that base foundation that you established. Mm-hmm. And then if they're getting off the path, then there's some deeper reasons that'll ultimately be uncovered.
Yeah, great.
Sometimes it's just not for them. Sometimes it's just not for them. Yeah, that's okay.
Exactly. And you have to be able to figure that out when that time is and lead them, lead them in a different direction, because you're helping them as well as helping the organization.
Yeah. I think too many times as leaders, leaders jump to conclusions. Mm-hmm. It's just not going to be good enough at it.
Yeah.
And I take it from someone will say that to me. I say, send them over to Coach Kyle. Coach Kyle's gonna help them. Yeah. And if I can't help them, then I know where we are. Yeah. So I think so much of it is just that, is coaching.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about communication. That's such also a big topic in the leadership arena, and leaders are always learning and trying to figure out ways to communicate better or whatnot, or organizations better. What are some of the mistakes that you see when you think about leaders that don't communicate well or organizations that don't communicate well? What does that look like?
Yeah, I just think you leave people too many to establish or answer their own questions. I don't want people assuming certain things. I think it's important as a leader that you set the path of where you're going and have an open door policy. And if people feel like somewhere in the organization we're not going on that path that's been set, then as leaders we need to know about that, because we make mistakes too. And if I need to be course corrected by a handful of people in the organization that say, hey Kyle, we met as a group, they said this is where we're going, doesn't really feel like that. What's going on? And so we seek that feedback. We want that feedback. And then if there is a change that needs to be made in that regard, then we make change. Mm-hmm. And it's just, to me, it's just that simple. But if you have closed door policies and you're not interested in that employee feedback, then it's really not going to be a successful culture within an organization. I think John, that many people have said this before, culture is king. And, I came to Walton in 2018, it's a 70-year-old business, family run. And obviously there's a culture there. But obviously after 70 years, there need to be some changes. And it's not that there was anything wrong. It's that if you want to get to the next level, we're going to have some different way of how we do things. And so you have to kind of very slowly make those, it's more tweaks than it is sweeping changes. Mm-hmm. And if you do that correctly over a 3 or 5 year period, you'll be pretty successful. And that's what we've done in the last 5 years mm-hmm. under my leadership here. So it's been so much fun. That's great. Well, I can imagine the culture of your organization just in the brief time we've gotten a chance to know each other. And it's amazing. I travel around all over the place and I go to different organizations and work with different teams, and I see you can walk in instantly or get on a call with a group of people and instantly see and feel a culture. You've got there a lot of leaders that might be listening that are very understanding of the importance of culture, and culture is king. I agree 100%. And they want to start making an uptick in it. They want to change it. They want to turn it around, or they want to improve it, even if it's good. What's one action step for a leader? What's one thing that you might tell them, hey, if they can leave this podcast and do this one thing that might make even a little bit, 1% difference tomorrow, what might that be? Yeah, I really do think you have to meet as a group at least once a month and talk about results but talk about other things. Celebrate successes in the organization, celebrate testimonials of the receptionist that, gets a testimonial from an outside customer that says, hey, every time I call the Walton Insurance Group, I feel like family. And it's because the first person that answers the phone treats me like family. So I think you got to really, really connect with each other. Talk about the good, talk about the bad, talk about things you can do better, talk about your results. And again, this for me comes from my years with Penske's organization. And he did this with thousands and thousands of employees, and shares the financial performance and how good it is and where he felt we could improve. And it was always in a team effort on how we could improve. So I think when you start that monthly communication process as a group, and sometimes the group's so big, you have to figure out how to do it in bite-sized chunks. So maybe you may have to, if you're a leader in an organization that has shift work, you're going to have to come in the middle of the night and have some of that communication. Mm-hmm. And these are the things, again, that Roger used to do at the UAW at Detroit Diesel. They'd communicate with thousands of people over the course of a week, every quarter. So it's a little more for them because of the size of the employees, or size of the employee group. But that monthly meeting for us, we gather again, talk about what's going on in each area of the business, and celebrate successes, wins, losses, and what we can do better. And I think if you do that, I know if you do that, generally, if you're happy at work, you're happier at home. So ultimately, what we want people to be able to leave here at the end of the day and get home and have a great home life and not be worried about things that are going on at work. And then that perpetuates into a better home life. So when they come into work, they're in a better frame of mind to be here. So we want to, as much as we want to them enjoy a family at home, we want them to have a family here at work as well. And sometimes that's sometimes the only stability that an employee may have, because maybe they have a poor home life. So we feel if we can have an awesome work life and work family, that there's trickle down effect with that. Or conversely, it's where they come to feel, wanted and needed and appreciated. And I think that has a lot to do with, success today. And I've always been a believer as all things start at home, but they can also start at work. And that's what I've learned more in my, I have 4 kids. We have 4 kids, and I've been fortunate to have great home lives. And my parents' family, they've all been a big part of my, my personality, character, etc. But I've come to realize more and more that work's an incredibly important place, because it's where you spend like at least half your time. And fortunately, throughout my life, I've been exposed to great jobs and great leaders, and I didn't always feel this way, but I do now that I have these 60 people that I'm responsible for. And I want that responsibility, and I was seeking that responsibility, and I wanted it. And so now I'm embracing it, and trying to do my best to help people be better.
Well, it sounds like you're certainly doing a phenomenal job. I love your insights that you've shared. I know, unfortunately, we're short on time here, but I know there are listeners that are going to want to get in touch. We'll put all your info in the show notes there. But Kyle, congrats, first of all, on your success. I understand, obviously, the organization has grown and doing tremendously well under your leadership, and you've built a terrific team. So keep up the great work.
But it's a team. It's just one person. I always say, management is 1 + 1 = 2. Leadership is like 1 + 1 = 4, maybe 5, maybe 1 + 1 = 0.
Yeah.
It's addition by subtraction.
Yeah.
So I think as leaders, you gotta surround yourself with other great leaders. And we have that here. There's, we couldn't do this I couldn't do it without, the people that we have, and certainly without the employees that we have. So it's just really, really fun.
Excellent.
And I think if you make it fun, it can be a great place to be, and people enjoy that.
Excellent. Well, thank you for joining us today, Kyle. I appreciate it. I hope you come back another time, and we'll take a deeper dive in one of these topics.
Yeah, would be happy to do it, John, anytime you want to chat.
Excellent. And thanks all for joining today on today's episode of Tomorrow's Leader. We've been here with Kyle O'Malley, the president of Walton Insurance Group. Great organization. We'll have all the information about Kyle and Walton Insurance Group in the show notes with links and all that kind of good stuff. In the meantime, like, share, subscribe, go down below, give a 5-star review, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thanks, John.